Donald Trump is once again ramping up his chaotic and boneheaded trade war, threatening a couple different types of tariffs. The first is a big one, a blanket 50% tariff on all imports from the EU, one of our biggest trading partners, as well as a 25% tariff specifically on Apple products unless iPhones are made in America. And so we're gonna handle both of these. But let's start with the EU. He says it was formed for the primary purpose of taking advantage of the US on trade, which I had forgotten because I haven't been in university for a while, but I'm glad he gave us that little history lesson. It's been very difficult to deal with. Again, strange because he's a master negotiator. So then lists all the things he doesn't like about them. He says that we have a trade deficit with them, which is unacceptable because again, he doesn't understand what a trade deficit is. He says our discussions with them are going nowhere. Therefore, I'm recommending a straight 50% tariff on the EU starting in 8 days. There is no tariff if the product is built or manufactured in the United States because that's not. Why would there be? There's never a tariff on something that's built here. Again, I don't think he knows anything that he's talking about. But look, a 50% tariff on the EU, that's a very big tariff. I mean, collectively on both sides of the trade, we trade nearly $1 trillion with each other as of last year. So this is very significant. And I thought, well, look, he's clearly having trouble making deals. He said there'd be 100 in 100 days. Instead, we have most of one. Maybe this is him strong arming them. Like you've got 8 days to do some sort of deal. And I thought that was unlikely to work because of course he already put smaller tariffs on them and the bond market tanked and everybody freaked out. So he retreated from that position, he capitulated. So they already called your bluff, like how are you gonna bluff him again? But there's actually breaking news. He says, I'm not looking for a deal. There's not gonna be any deal. It's just gonna be 50%. So I guess a significant portion of that stock market damage, which we are already seeing, that'll be back. And the damage done to bond markets also, I guess, will be back. He's just saying, if you don't wanna pay this tariff, you build the products here. Because he seems to think that they can just set up factories later this month, I suppose. So again, you can't trust anything he says. It's one of the issues he has as a negotiator and as a diplomat is that his word has no credibility because he doesn't stick to it. But he's promising these, and as I said, there's the Apple thing. He potentially wants to add a couple $100 to the cost of every iPhone because he's mad at Tim Cook or sometimes Tim Apple. So Cenk, what do you make of these?
Look, I'd like to think that I'm very consistent, and you can see it on tape over the last 20 years. But I think the thing I've been most consistent about is Donald Trump is not bright. He just doesn't know anything, and he never does. And part of the reason why he doesn't know anything is because he never does any homework. Yeah. He's the laziest man in America. So like when he's campaigning for himself or golfing, he's got plenty of energy, I'll give him that, right? But if you ask him to read something, to learn something before he opens his mouth, no chance he's gonna do that, none, right? So every statement he says about this is wrong. But again, now let's go to the core of this issue. And you can judge me on what happens next, okay? Because I'm gonna tell you what happens next and then you decide whether I'm right or wrong about it, okay? So 50% tariffs on the EU, mental, okay? So now, first, I think this time he'll try to be more stubborn because last time he folded like a cheap suit, like instantly, right? So this time he had the statement like, and we're not even asking to do negotiations with the EU, I'm done with them, right? Yeah, you're gonna have 50% tariff on $1 trillion worth of trade. No, you're not. 50% tariff means that you can't sell any products. People have 15, 20, if they have an amazing business, 25, 30% profit margin. If you add 50% on top, you're losing money. You don't sell that product. Doesn't make any sense, right? Guys, if you don't know economics and business, it's okay. Everybody's got a different job, right? But I can guarantee you this, 50% is not a little number. It's a monster number. Okay, in terms of tariffs. So what'll happen over the next 8 days as this leads up to it is the market will start to going down more and more, and panic will start to set in, and then people will start yelling at Scott Bessent, and then CNBC will be filled with Trump donors going, well, look, we like Trump, but I don't know about this. Come on. And either he'll fold before the 8 days is up, or in this case, he's going to want to be a little bit more stubborn. He might actually wait till it starts to kick in, and then a little while later, and panic is going to start spreading and spreading. and then he'll fold and then of course he won't say that he folded. He'll say, "Oh yeah, EU gave me something back. Switzerland sent me. They're not potentially, and I might not be in the EU, but still sent me some Swiss cheese, okay? And Italy sent me a bribe of a Ferrari, so that's what we got back. I'm such an awesome negotiator." But there's no way a 50% tariff lasts. That's insane.
I think we need to dispel of the notion that America is somehow being taken advantage of by the system that we invented and created for our own ends. Like the global economy functions the way that it did because America made it so. To turn around and say we're being taken advantage of by the thing that we created is insane. Like it's just not true. Now, this is my problem with Donald Trump and his trade policy. Is like the way things are unsustainable. Like this idea that we make absolutely nothing in America is unsustainable. Like they do need to reshore certain types of manufacturing, not socks and t-shirts, but this high-tech sort of manufacturing that we don't do here. And if Donald Trump was smart, if anybody around him could convince him to have a freaking brain, we would do what China did, which is what? Obviously, we have the biggest consumer market in the world. You want access to our customers, you gotta give us access to your technology. You gotta make stuff here, we're gonna learn how to do it here, and then eventually do it ourselves. And China would be like, yeah, we know they're taking our tech, but guess what? We want the customers in the meantime. Like having this huge consumer market is our biggest advantage, and that's what we should be pressing. Saber rattling and pretending we're the biggest bully and we don't need any friends or allies anywhere, and we threaten the EU with it. Like it's just nonsensical and it's not going to work. And iPhones can't be made in America. The jobs that actual humans do, not very well paying, and it wouldn't be that many jobs anyway. And we don't have the technology, we don't have the machinery. We literally can't make iPhones here. It's just quite nuts, like the stuff that this guy says in public, and it's no wonder that these people on the market are like, basically crapping their pants.
Yeah, and again, to the earlier point that I made about how freed up and just confident this administration feels to specifically target I didn't know you could do a tariff against an individual product that only affects one company. I feel like the Constitution kind of has something to say about that with unlawful bills of attainder and everything, but I guess you could do that. So I guess a future Democratic president could put tariffs on Tesla vehicles if Elon Musk stops doing X, maybe trying to buy judicial elections or something like that. I guess you can target individual corporations and products with tariffs to affect policy, which is exactly what he's trying to do. It's a wild time we live in.
So real quick on that, John. So later today, not later from now, but after he first made the announcement about Apple, somebody told him, hey, that's illegal. So he came back out and was like, I mean all iPhones, not iPhones, all smartphones. And so it also applies to Samsung, of course, right?
Yeah, that's actually what I guessed on TDR he would do this morning.
Yeah.
He probably should have thought of that before announcing this, just so that, I don't know, so the job of the judge who's going to eventually go over this thing will be a little bit harder. It's pretty clear what his goal was here.
Yeah.
In any event, I think we have time for our final.
Sorry. Just one more thing about, or a couple of things about that, John. So on the smartphones, by the way, the iPhones in particular, bank analysts today came out with an estimate of what these tariffs will cause the iPhones to cost now. So average is about 1,200, which I'm stunned by how high that is. And they say now the price will go from 1,200 to a minimum 1,500, and might go all the way up to 3,500. Well, ain't nobody buying an iPhone at 3,500. Okay, that's not gonna happen. And even if it goes to 1,500, you add $300 to anybody buying an iPhone or any kind of smartphone. Oh, forget the stock market. The American people will grab pitchforks, right? They'll go nuts. it'll make the Biden inflation look like child's play, right? So that's why I say it's totally unsustainable. To Waz's point, it takes at least 3 to 4 years to build a factory. So if we're gonna make the smartphones here, we're gonna do them in the next administration. And you're really gonna keep these giant tariffs for 4 years until we built those factories? Come on, nobody believes that. No one in their right mind believes that. And lastly, worst case scenario is that the rest of the world realizes, hey, you know what? Why do we keep giving into this schmuck? He's an obvious bluffer. Why don't we just unite? And if we unite and we cut America out, then America will be in a lot of trouble. And that would be an epic disaster. And he's flirting with it and pushing them to do it. So if the EU starts going to China, India, and other places and starts making alliances without us in it, then the era of American dominance is over. So, I mean, that would be intensely ironic for a guy whose slogan was "Make America Great Again." Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.